Welcome everyone to the Targhee Turn Lanes virtual open house. My name is Sloan and I'm the communications manager for the project. Thank you for joining us today and your interest in the project. So this first slide shows the key personnel that are part of the Targhee Turn Lanes project. With me today are Ben Schindel, the project manager for MDT, and Neil Bell, the project manager for RPA, as well as Becca, who is my colleague, who will facilitate the Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions at any time during the presentation, please feel free to enter them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will address them at the end. So we'll start today's presentation with an overview of the Targhee Turn Lanes project, outline the planned improvements for the project, talk a little bit about the project funding and schedule, as well as a related project, and then end with a Q&A session. So to get started, I would like to introduce Ben, who will provide an overview of the project.
Thank you, Sloan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ben Schindel. I'm the MDT project manager, and I wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to join us for this virtual open house. So the project location, the project extends from mile marker 1.2 to mile marker 2.4, which is between West Yellowstone and the Idaho border. As many of you guys know, this is about the location of the Mountainside KOA and extends just beyond the railroad arena in that location. So Neil will provide some of the more details of the project. So Neil.
Thanks, Ben. Neil Bell, project manager with Robert Pesh & Associates. We're under contract for the design of this project for MDT. I'll give a quick overview of the planned improvements of the project, just to give a better idea of what exactly could be involved. It's a relatively straightforward project. The Targhee Turn Lanes project is a safety improvement
Neil,
project.
Did you want to turn your camera on while you're talking?
Sure.
Sorry, thank you.
No, you're good. So like I was saying, the Targhee Turn Lanes project is a safety improvement project for MDT, which I think we'll discuss in a little more detail in a minute. But in general, it means it's a project that targets a very specific safety issue that has been identified analyzing data trends. So in the area that Ben described, there has been crash trends identified, and that is the main reason for the project. So to address this trend, the main roadway improvement proposed for the project is the center turning lane, which should help to remove the conflict between vehicles that are slowing down and stopping to take left turns in these areas and those continuing on at normal highway speeds. Based on the amount of approaches in the area, the center turn lane will need to be a two-way left turn lane for the majority of the project to avoid restricting access. So this allows vehicles to turn left in either direction. However, for the Denny Creek Road area, it is a little more isolated, so we will be able to have a dedicated left turn in that area. Going on to the next slide, we have a short list of other potential kind of roadside safety improvements that we're looking at as part of the turn lane construction. These items are subject to funding, of course, but they're being considered mainly due to the fact that adding that center turn lane will widen the roadway and bring the roadway shoulder closer to potential hazards that are existing right out there in the right of way right now. For one, there's a stream crossing for the East Fork of Denny Creek Road. This is a existing concrete drainage structure. And so the intent with the project, we're going to extend that out to make sure that the ends of that stream crossing will be outside of, or will not be a hazard after the road is widened. Another roadside improvement that we're looking at is related to existing irrigation ditches that are within the current highway right-of-way. Any vehicle that leaves the road right now could potentially impact those ditches. And of course, any maintenance that has to occur with those ditches has to be done within the highway right away. So it is MDT's preference to move as much of these irrigation ditches outside of the highway right away as we can to remove these potential hazards. So that's something that's being considered. Another item that we're under discussion with is regarding the snowmobile, UTV, and horseback trail rider traffic that are in the area. These users travel within the highway right away throughout the project area, and traffic is heavy enough that actual trails have developed within the right of way over time. These trails will be impacted when we widen the roadway, and they're not being rebuilt by MDT with the project, but recognizing that this traffic is still going to potentially use the right of way after the turn lane is added, we are considering adding some sort of warning system or other advanced warning for these potential hazards. And finally, just like any safety improvement project, there are opportunities where we can maybe clear trees and improve sight distance, flatten embankment slopes to make them more recoverable. We should be able to mitigate some areas for rock fall. So any roadside improvement that can be included in increase the safety of the project is being considered as well. So that kind of sums it up. The next two slides here are intended to be a visual rendering of existing and proposed conditions. The first here shows the existing roadway. We got 12-foot travel lanes, 4-foot shoulders. Outside of that, there's an irrigation ditch shown on the left within the right of way with the horseback rider there. And then on the right, there are some trees obstructing sight distance. That's kind of a typical situation. So going forward to the proposed situation, again, as far as the road, we're going to add that 14-foot center turn lane. And then depending on how much of the roadside improvements we can get done, we could potentially move the irrigation ditch outside of the right of way, clear some of the trees, flatten slopes. So this is just a kind of a general view of how that would look. So just to wrap up the design update for the next slide, I just want to mention that there have been some activity out on the project here this month. As many of you have maybe noticed, we're working to pick up additional field information that we need for the design. So there have been some geotechnical crews getting additional soil information out there. I think they were out there drilling last week and should be finishing up here in July. We've also had some utility locators and field surveyors out on site this week, just collecting additional data. So most of this work is occurring off the road. There should be minimal traffic control and minimal impacts to the traveling public. But for those of you who are aware of it, you may see crews out there on site. So that kind of covers the design update, and I'll throw it back to Ben for a quick update on the schedule.
Okay, thank you, Neil. So, well, we did take a brief pause to get RPA hired to help MDT design this project. We believe that ultimately will help us deliver this project sooner to get these improvements built. We are currently in the design phase here in 2024, and we hope to have the design finalized in 2026 and construction to start in 2027. So project funding. So this project is funded through the Highway Safety Improvements Program, or the HSIP. So HSIP is a federal program that provides funding to states for projects that directly work to improve safety. Projects that qualify for this funding must identify a location where severe higher crash rates have occurred and provide a solution that reduces these crashes. Additionally, project costs must outweigh benefits. So costly improvements that do not significantly address crashes are unlikely to be approved for funding. As a result, this funding can be highly restrictive and may not allow for all of the improvements in the area that may need to be done. With that, I guess, Brandon, if you wanted to talk about other related projects in the area for everyone,
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
we can. Thank you.
So there's a project in the Butte District in-house design that will be tied in construction to this project called Targhee Pass or Targhee Pass East. And what that will mostly consist of is a seal and cover chip seal. There's a dig out that's going to be taking place east of the bridge for about 300 feet. And then there's a double culvert that tied to the one that's being discussed in construction, designed separately, different PE phases associated with it, different funding source associated with it, but will be installed and constructed at the same time as the project that's being discussed.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Could you repeat the section on the culvert real quick? I think so. We're just replacing the double culvert with a new box culvert. Is that essentially what you were trying to say? I think it cut out a little.
That's correct. We haven't decided on a box culvert quite yet. That's probably the likely scenario that it'll be replaced with, but there's a hydraulic analysis being performed now to size a replacement culvert for the two that are in place.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandon. So I guess then we just like to talk about our Vision Zero. And so enhancing the roadway safety features of this section of roadway, along with Montana's thousands of miles of state roads, is a vital component of this Vision Zero goal. And Vision Zero is an ongoing statewide collaboration among agencies and organizations. And with our goal being 0 deaths and 0 injuries on Montana's roadways, we hope to improve the roads as much as possible. And we appreciate everyone for doing their part to help MDT on this mission by driving safely and responsibly on Montana roads. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sloan.
Great. Thank you so much, team. If you have any questions, feedback, or concerns, you can contact us at any time by emailing me, Sloan at bigskypublicrelations.com, or by calling the project hotline. The contact information is on the slide, so please take note of it. This information is also available on the project's webpage on the MDT website. And there's also regularly updated project information on the page, so please visit. I will now pass it over to Becca for the Q&A session.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. I am going to help support facilitation of the Q&A session. If you have a question or a comment based on what you've heard today that you'd like the team to address, please feel free to add it to the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. That button looks like a couple little 2 chat bubbles. So we can go ahead and dive into that. We can wait a moment to see if anyone has a question or comment. If for some reason we don't get any questions or comments, we have a few questions that came up repeatedly at the open house last week that the team can address. But before we dive into that, let's just pause here for a moment. And again, if anyone has a question, concern, comment, feel free to enter that now. Okay, I'm not seeing anything at the moment. If someone's still typing, go for it, and we can certainly address that as well. But perhaps we can address a couple questions again that were commonly received at the open house last week. So the first question is, why does the project not extend to the Westgate, KOA, and beyond? Neil, I'm not sure if you'd be the correct person to answer that one.
I could take that one. So, and that just basically what this gets back to is the the HSIP funding. So they have a big complex computer and they run a lot of data through it. And this area, as you all know, has a high rate of crashes. And so this project was nominated to address those crashes. And based on the amount of highways in the state of Montana, there's a lot of similar areas that need this funding to address. So currently, this is the only area that we're planning on improving, but that does not mean that we can't extend or nominate a new project to address the issues at the other KOA campground and continue to look at the area to see if there's options or funding available for more improvements on the roadway between West Yellowstone and Idaho.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. That's really helpful. The second question, again, that was pretty commonly received. Why is the highway not being expanded to 4 lanes like on the Idaho side? Ben, I don't know if you want to answer that or pass it elsewhere.
I mean, I can start. It's basically the same thing. So that type of highway system has not, I don't know. We haven't really evaluated it for that. We can't really do that type of system, I guess, is what I'm trying to say with this type of funding. I don't know if Brandon from the district has anything to add. But we'll continue to look at options, but based on the funding of this project, we're not able to do a project of that magnitude at this time.
Thanks, Ben. Looks like we lost Brandon for a second. Brandon or Neil, anything else to add there? Okay.
I
Oh,
don't,
go ahead.
yeah.
Okay, no worries. Awesome. Thank you. The third and last question that was commonly received is, can the speed limit be lowered through this corridor? Ben, maybe I'll pass that to you. And again, you can pass it if you're not the best person to answer that.
Thank you, Becca. Neil, would you take this one, please?
Sure, absolutely. So I guess the short answer is yes, but we cannot do it as part of the project. It has to go through the Montana State Transportation Commission to get a speed reduction zone approved in the area. So this is a commission that's appointed by the governor, and so typically the issue has to be kind of petitioned to the commission from local government individuals. So in this case, we would need the support of the Gallatin County commissioners, local police, firefighters, local businesses, and work that way through the process. And I think actually the speed limit has been reduced here within the last couple of years under the same process. So it's definitely possible, but we can't just change it as part of the project. It has to go through the typical process for that reduction. I don't know if Ben or Brandon want to add anything to that.
Nope. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate the information.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody. That was really helpful. Appreciate you taking the time to answer those. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments in the Q&A box at this time. I'll pass it back to you, Sloan.
Great. Thank you so much for moderating, Becca. We really appreciate it. So that concludes our presentation for today. This presentation was recorded and will be posted on the project webpage, so you can refer to it in the future and share it with your neighbors, friends, and family. Again, if you have any further questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, the contact information is on the slide. And thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great afternoon. Thank you, everyone.